Hello, welcome to another reading vlog. For some reason, I've decided this is going to be a reading vlog of struggling, maybe just because I am in my last month of work now, but I am struggling to stay engaged. And you would think that that would be a great time to pick up some books that I'm super excited about, but apparently that's not what I'm doing. But these are all books I want to read, so we'll see. The first thing that I'm picking up is Child of Flame by Kate Elliott. This is the 4th volume of the Crown of Stars series. Each book in the series seems to just get bigger and bigger. They're massive books. There's so much to them. It's kind of this expansive, epic fantasy, people fighting for kingdoms, dark magic. There's a lot going on. I do enjoy it, but I also find the writing's quite dense and they're just so long and there's so much to them that I really struggle to get through it. This is pretty much the only physical book that I'm going to try and read in March, and my goal is just to read 25 pages a day. If I read 25 pages a day, I'll get to the end of the book by the end of the month. So that seems achievable. However, first night of March, I read 25 pages. Second night of March, I was finishing off an audiobook. I didn't read any pages, and now it's the 3rd of March. So we'll see what I can manage to do tonight. I mean, really, I should read 50 pages so I can catch up, but 50 pages of this would probably take me like 2 hours to get through, so that seems unlikely that I'll have the time, but we'll try. And maybe I'll try and tell you a bit more about that series as we go, because there's a bunch of different characters and a bunch of different things going on. And also, I started reading this book like 6 months ago, so I don't remember it all. So as I remember, I'll tell you. The other 2 things that I have picked up. Firstly, I started listening to the audiobook of Rites by, what's his name? Jim Butcher. This is the 6th book, I think, in the Harry Dresden series, which is all about this man named Harry Dresden, and he is like a private investigator, but he also happens to be a wizard, and he does these like paranormal investigations. He's also at the moment stuck in the middle of a war between the vampires and the wizards. The wizards don't really like him that much either. I have already read I think about an hour, and so far Harry hasn't done anything to annoy me. And whenever it's like that, it starts reminding me that it actually has a lot of similarities to the Kate Daniels series, which is one of my favorite series. It's also about this mercenary in this post-apocalyptic world with all this magic. And in some ways, the writing styles have a lot of similarities. However, Kate Daniels' books are just kind of fun and snarky. There's a great cast of characters. It can be really emotional. Harry Dresden books, unfortunately, have Harry in them, and he is constantly getting distracted by women, objectifying them, feeling like he needs to protect them, and I just wish all of that would be deleted from these books, and I think I'd enjoy them a lot more. Anyway, I'm going to try and not get annoyed at him in this 6th book, but it might be a bit of a struggle. That's why we're going with the theme of struggling for this vlog. The other book that I have got for this weekish, it might not be exactly a week because it's already Thursday, and I don't know when I'm going to finish this vlog, but let's not worry about it. The other book that I do have to struggle with is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. So this has had a lot of really terrible reviews. I read the first book, Ready Player 1, and I really loved it. And this is the story everyone has. They really love Ready Player 1, but it was totally wrapped up. There was no need for a second book. There's a second book. I haven't heard anyone say it was good, so I don't have a lot of hopes, but my goal for this year is to complete series, and so if I read it, I've completed the series because it's just a duology, and I'm pretty sure because it's had such terrible reviews that he wouldn't try and make a 3rd book, and also Player 3, it's not really a thing. I guess it is, but not really. So I think this is going to be the series complete. If you haven't heard of Ready Player 1, it is set in this dystopian world where the world is so terrible that everyone kind of logs onto this virtual world so that they don't have to put up with the shit of the real world. And the virtual world is amazing, and its inventor is super rich. However, he dies, and when he dies, he leaves behind this competition, and whoever can find all the clues first will get to inherit his great fortune, and in fact, own this virtual world. So we're following along with the guy who wins, and we know right from the start that he wins, but we're kind of going with him, trying to solve the clues. There's heaps of, I think it's 80s pop culture and just really great friendships and lessons, but the second book apparently has none of that, so I don't know, but I'm going to read it. Otherwise, probably not much is going to happen this week. We're in the middle of an Omicron peak here in New Zealand, and I have a janky immune system, so I will just be staying home as much as I can. I guess the main thing is that I am getting ready for my last days of work, but it's still a month away, so probably I'll just be stressed about work this week as normal. But at least I'll have some books to rant about. Hello. So last night I did read about 10 pages of this and then I was so tired. I thought I'll just go to sleep, but I didn't go to sleep. I stayed up for several hours scrolling through Instagram reels, and then I hadn't had enough sleep, and so I've just had like a wonderful after work nap, although I'm now like it's dark and I don't feel connected to the world at all, and I think I'm gonna go for another night walk, risk dying, all that, because I need some fresh air, I think, before I try to go to bed for real. The 10 pages of this that I did read last night, I did enjoy, but I don't feel like too much happened. We were mostly with this girl who is an eagle. So in this world, royalty have like several different groups: the dragons, the lions, and the eagles. I was trying to remember if there was another one last night, but I've kind of forgotten. The eagles are kind of like messengers and spies. Hannah is off with this princess helping out with this war. She's like married this neighboring kingdom's prince, and the eagle is there kind of seeing what's going on, but she also has kind of her own story going on where she has this connection now to the people of this other kingdom and like their magic. So it's actually really interesting. I was thinking a lot of the characters in this are like people adjacent to royalty. Like we don't get a lot of the actual royalty's perspectives. Mostly we get like people who are following along with them. And so of course the story with the royalty is important, but it's often these people on the side that are really more involved in the magic and know more about what's really going on. So I'm going to try and read some more of this tonight, but honestly, am I human anymore? I don't know. So can I read? I don't know. The other thing I've been doing is reading Blood Rites. And Kat from Brews and Reviews had told me that this one was going to annoy me, and I thought, okay, I mean, Harry Dresden annoys me all the time, so probably. But I'm 33% in now, and I can tell you, I know why she thought it might annoy me. This one is set on an erotic film set, so there's some magical threat to some of the people involved in this erotic film. Some of the people who are cast in this film are not really human, and somehow this war between the wizards and the vampires is kind of involved as well. But Harry, of course, actually, I would say so far he hasn't been too bad about like ogling the woman, but I feel like the author at this point had maybe had some criticism about the way that he makes Harry always want to protect women, and he like doubled down on it. He like had Harry do this little speech about maybe you'll think he's a Neanderthal, but actually he just really feels like it's terrible when bad things happen to humans, especially when it's women. I don't know, it just really annoys me. But I guess if I go on my night walk right now, I will read some more and we'll see what happens. Hello, so it's Saturday afternoon. I had grand plans to be productive today, and I haven't really been that productive. But I did dye my hair, got rid of my roots. It's darker than I thought it would be, which, like, officially the number was a lighter colour, so why is it darker? I don't understand hair dye colours, but glad to have gotten rid of my roots for now. I think once I finish work, I'm going to try bleaching it and try to make it a properly lighter colour. I'm just a little bit worried that it'll look terrible during some kind of transition period, and so better to do that when I don't regularly have to be on video calls. Anyway, before I completely give up on productivity today, I thought I would update you and then I'll head over to Jason's and continue to read my audiobook. So, my audiobook, Blood Rites, I think I'm up to 63%, so nearly 2/3 of the way through now. I think last time I updated you at a third, so maybe I'm updating you every third. This is not annoying me as much as I thought it would be. There was definitely one thing that really pissed me off. So there's kind of like this bad vampire lady, and Harry keeps being chivalrous to her, even though, like, even when she's just tried to kill his friend, he's like, oops, I opened the door for her without thinking about it. Like, dude, like, maybe you should try thinking highly recommended. And then like just after being totally lenient with this vampire woman who's like trying to kill people and being like, oh, but it's because she's a woman. Just after that, he lets situations go ahead that lead to an innocent woman dying. Isn't that a little bit hypocritical? And also, I'm pretty sure the guy that's involved in this innocent woman dying, I bet he's gonna forgive him. And he's all like, oh, it's similar to something that's happened to me in my past. Well, like, dude, oh my god, you're such a hypocrite. So I feel, it sounds like I am annoyed, doesn't it? After I just said I'm not that annoyed with it. But like, Harry, he frustrates me all the time. Very annoying. But like, I am enjoying the story. It's been a couple of really good things. Firstly, there's a puppy. I forgot to mention the puppy before, but I'm really hoping the puppy is going to become part of the main cast. And like, a puppy's got to improve things, right? It's been improving things so far. As well, we got like quite an interesting reveal, kind of part of the bigger story about Harry's past and his situation with the wizards. And I quite liked the way that that twist was done, even though I also think it's going to have some dumb consequences. As well, there's two characters, Murphy and Kincaid, and just their first interaction had me wondering, is this the beginning of a hate-to-love romance? Like, I've always suspected that maybe they were going to try and have Harry have some kind of relationship with Murphy eventually, but maybe she's going to hook up with this other guy, because just the way the rivalry was set up between them, I was like, I could be completely wrong, of course. Anyway, weirdly, I'm kind of enjoying it while simultaneously being very annoyed at Harry for being Harry, which is just the general problem with this series. The other thing that I did do is read some of this last night. Honestly, I don't even know how many pages I've read. However, I'm up to 253, and I got up to this new chapter. The chapters are super long, so every one that you complete is an achievement. Like, each of these kind of chapters is kind of broken up into smaller sub-chapters that just have, like, number headings. I don't know what's the chapter, what's the sub-chapter, who knows. But I made it up to a new chapter. As well, there was this section about this religion. So there's a religion involved in the events in this. So one of the characters in this religion is kind of like a Jesus/Prometheus type character. And there's kind of the main traditional religious beliefs about him, but there's kind of been a thread throughout this series of this new belief coming in. Of course, the main church regards this as heresy. And it was really interesting because right in the middle of the war, one of these characters has been accused of heresy, which they have been going around and preaching these other ideas. And the leader of the army is like, yeah, that's cool. Like, maybe it is heresy, but right now I need soldiers, so can we not worry about it? Which is interesting to think about, like, how much are you willing to let slide during war? I know just recently I read that in Ukraine they let their prisoners out to fight, which, I mean, why wouldn't you? It makes sense, but also, like, there probably is a line. Did they release all the prisoners? Did they keep some locked away because they can't even be trusted in a war? I don't know. I didn't properly research it, but it's an interesting idea to think about. Like, where do you draw the line during war in terms of what's okay and what you're willing to forgive from your allies? So, like, some interesting ideas in this. I am enjoying it in the way that I enjoy the story, which is very slowly. Anyway, I told Jace I was going to leave ages ago, so I should probably actually go. And tomorrow, when I come home, I'm going to try again at being productive. Maybe it'll work out. Hello, so I filmed my last clip on the same spot. Oh, because on Saturday I was going to film a video and then I didn't. And then I've just filmed it today. Today being Monday, so that's a sign that when I said I would try to be productive on Sunday, I didn't do that. But I filmed a video today, so like somewhat productive. And I did manage to do a bit of reading since I last talked to you. So firstly, this one I managed to get to, where is it? The start of a new part, so the end of part 2. I think the first 3 parts are kind of like 150 pages each, and then the last part is like the last second half of the book. But anyway, I feel like I'm going to try and get to the end of part 3, the start of part 4, by the end of the week. If I can keep my 25-page a day pacing up, then I think I can do it. So the thing that happened in this book since I last talked to you is we went back to this guy, Elaine, and his story. So Elaine has gone on a very big journey. He's currently in, I'm not sure if it's a different world or just a different time, but he's in a completely different place. He went through this portal, different place. People who don't speak the same language as him. But he's kind of been set up to marry this girl. But then she got kidnapped and he went to save her. It was all very magical and strange, and I didn't entirely follow what was going on. Because I sometimes find the way Kate Elliott writes action scenes is that she's focusing more on kind of like the feeling and the sense of the magic rather than telling me what's actually happening. So it's like a fairly soft magic system, even though there's lots of different aspects to it. Or maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand it properly. Or maybe it's because it's taken me so long to read this series that I've forgotten a lot of the details that would have helped me understand it. But anyway, I kind of enjoy still the overall battle. And just because there's so much going on, every time I get back to a set of characters in a different place, I'm like, oh yeah, these guys. I remember these guys. And it's just like a nice little reunion. So we'll see which characters I get to spend time with next. The other thing that I did is I finished off listening to Blood Rites by Jim Butcher, so the 6th book in the Harry Dresden series. I still think Harry is very annoying. The way that he survived the last battle in this, honestly, it kind of tries to make out like he's smart, but mostly he's just lucky. It kind of admits to that, but like, I don't know. Harry as a character just is very annoying, and I don't like him as a person, but some of the stuff that's happening with the world is starting to get more interesting. Again, I'm not that interested in the vampires, but sometimes there's some interesting ideas in there. And I do think a couple of things that were introduced in this book are going to mean things might be more interesting going forward. So firstly, the puppy. Totally there for the puppy. And the second thing is kind of we learned some things about Harry's family. And I'm interested to see what will happen there. So actually, this book, I thought, you know, I'm always like, I wonder when I'll stop reading the Harry Dresden series, but this one maybe convinced me that I might start liking these books more eventually. Maybe. No promises. The other thing that I did do just today is I started reading Ready Player 2. I went into it like really trying to have an open mind. Like I knew that there's a lot of terrible reviews for it, but I was like, I'm going to read this, so I should go in with an open mind, hoping that I will love it. And I'm only an hour in, and I don't love it. There's been this new technology introduced where basically it will make the virtual world feel like the real world, and as well you can record the real world so you can relive people's experiences, and it'll feel exactly like you're in their body, like experiencing what they experienced. And it's trying to say that this is like the peak of human communication, and that now that we've invented this, we won't need to improve communication at all because this is the best we'll have for communication. And it's so wrong because like even if you could be in someone's body and experience what they experienced, you're still not necessarily going to understand them, right? Because you're not thinking what they're thinking. You're only in their body. Like for example, today I had a meeting and I found it somewhat frustrating because we were trying to explain some things and clearly the other people in the meeting didn't understand it. Now, if I was able to get a recording of their experience of the meeting and follow along with it, I still wouldn't understand why they don't understand it, because I still wouldn't know what it is that they're thinking when they try to understand it. I would still just hear my explanations and I'd be like, yes, that's what I said. Why don't you get it? And like if they lived the meeting from my experience, they'd still be like, yeah, you said that, but it didn't mean anything to me. So I just think the whole idea that this is like amazing for communication. No. As well, the main character had just quoted The Matrix and talked about The Matrix, and still he's like, I can't see any problems with not being able to tell the difference between the virtual world and the real world. Like really, you can't see that that would cause any problems? And so then it just kind of like brushes over them deciding to release this technology. And like, there's other things. Like in the first book, it was also written like it's being written by the guy in the future. So it's written with that future knowledge. And it's written in like, I guess, distance past tense. But still, it felt like you were following along with the action. Whereas in this one, it's kind of just brushing over things too quick so far. and I don't feel invested in the story. And I feel like it's because it's trying to jump to this new quest, this new... Okay, quick update before I go for my evening walk. I'm going to leave a little bit earlier tonight so that hopefully I can get back and have plenty of time for reading this, because I did not read my allotted amount of pages last night. After work, I find it really hard to focus. Even when I've gone for an evening walk and I've done everything to clear work out of my mind, it still will not get out of there. That's why I'm quitting. Anyway, this book, we're following some characters kind of around Prince Songlant. He's back in this place very close to where he was when he was captured and went through some very traumatic events in the second book. But as well, there's kind of been some hints about like him saying, oh, it's been so long since I had sex, I don't know how much longer I can put it off, because his love interest is like missing, and it's kind of implying like he's gonna cheat on her. And if he does that, I'm gonna be really mad. So I hope that's not actually what's gonna happen. I'm hoping I misunderstood that. But anyway, I'll try and read some more of this. The other thing that I have been doing is listening to the audiobook of Ready Player 2. So I'm now nearly halfway in. What I will say, in the beginning, I was still really hating the main character. It seemed like he just unlearned every lesson he learned from the first book. They were making some really stupid decisions. Just everything was stupid. I did appreciate my criticism about, have you not paid attention to your quote of The Matrix? One of the characters did call out, hey, what about The Matrix? And I was like, exactly. So I guess it's self-aware there. And I just feel like everything around this quest that's been introduced is kind of annoying and stupid. But the quest itself is actually kind of fun. Okay, I lost my train of thought while I waited for this plane to fly overhead. But the quest itself is very fast-paced. I really enjoy the problem solving. And I like a lot of the pop culture references. A lot of them are things that I like. The Princess Bride, Dark Crystal. It's just a lot of fun. And so for that reason, I am now getting through it very fast. It's just every time it comes back to the characters being annoying, then I get annoyed at it. So I guess we'll see. So far, I'm like 2 of 7 steps in the quest through. So hopefully the second half will just be fun all the time, but I doubt it, because we're still going to have that annoying character and the main character who's just continuously makes stupid decisions and doesn't think things through. But anyway, I said I was going to try and have an open mind with this book, so there's some things about it that have been annoying me, but there's also been a lot of fun, and so hopefully we'll get more fun. Hello, so another very annoying day at work, but I'm about to go out for a walk and listen to my audiobook, and I actually decided to download a particular book on Audible, so I'm waiting for it to download, and I thought, oops, I better actually update my vlog. So, firstly, I finished off Ready Player 2, that's what it's called, and like, I'm kind of frustrated because where it went to in the ending was actually really cool, but the setup for it just didn't really touch on those same themes enough. So it was kind of just interesting at the end. And then this quest, which was kind of interesting, but also sometimes it went on a bit. Like if you don't like Prince, the artist Prince, then you will probably get quite annoyed with this, because it went on about Prince for quite a long time. There's also quite a lot about Lord of the Rings, or more the Silmarillion, which I hated the Silmarillion. And also quite a lot about Pretty in Pink and like that guy's movies, which again I don't know much about, so that didn't annoy me that much because it just seemed more creative. But like if you don't like that, it might annoy you. So yeah, it just kind of goes on a little bit. I generally liked the action. I feel like it tries a bit too hard with the emotional stuff. Like it'll be like, here's the feelings we're feeling and this is why it's important. I'm like, well, you know, you could try nuance. I can probably figure some of that stuff out without you like hitting me over the head with it, but sure. But that said, like I saw everybody saying this was terrible, and I can understand why they say that, because the setup doesn't start well, and so it doesn't put you in the frame of mind to enjoy it. But I do think some parts were actually okay. So maybe overall it wasn't terrible, but I think he just needed to spend a bit more time on that setup and working out why we were doing all of this. or at least like not making the main character so unlikable right at the beginning. But I did read that super quick, so that's why it's not the end of the week, but I've got time to listen to some more audiobooks. So what I'm gonna listen to is another book that I'm kind of expecting to struggle with. And that is Dragon's Fire by Anne McCaffrey and Todd McCaffrey. So Todd McCaffrey kind of started taking over his mother's Dragons of Pern series. I've talked about the Dragons of Pern before. It's a really long series. I think this is book 18 in the series. It's all about this world where at irregular periods this thread falls from the sky and destroys everything that it touches. And they rely on dragons to shoot this thread out of the sky. But because sometimes it'll be hundreds of years before it falls again, people forget why the dragons are so important and they stop supporting the dragon riders. And just the whole series kind of continues on as they learn a lot more things about what's going on. It's kind of a science fiction fantasy, and as it goes on, it gets more and more science fiction, I think. And I don't know what this particular one is about, but I guess I will find out. If it ever downloads. Oh, it's downloaded. I should go for a walk. Also, just quickly to note that no, I did not read any of Child of Flame last night, so I'm definitely behind on that too. However, tomorrow is Friday, then it's the weekend, and I'm feeling like I can get through tomorrow without being too stressed, and then I can just have a lovely weekend, so hopefully. Hello. So, it is a very grey day today, but it's Saturday, so I'm not mad about it. I actually did a lot of house cleaning this morning, and even though it made me realize how much I am behind on housework and house maintenance stuff, it was nice to get some of it done, and I feel much calmer now. But also, I haven't done that much reading since I last talked to you. I think maybe even I haven't read any of this. So I guess we'll see if I end up having time this weekend. Although Jace is coming around soon, so I probably won't be reading it until he leaves. But anyway, I have gotten about a third of the way through Dragon's Fire. And this as well, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I do think, like, as always, Anne McCaffrey's world building is really great. I do think because it's been so long since I read this series, there are references to characters that have been in previous books and like the bigger political world, and I don't always remember who all these people are. And like, I think part of this is set in this mining town that I think was the setting for Dragon's Kin. And there was even a part of it where I wasn't sure whether the events of this book were like aligned with it, like happening at the same time. I can't remember enough about it. But anyway, I'm a third of the way in, and I'm not entirely sure I know what the book is about yet. We're following primarily this boy named Pelor, I think. And he's this mute boy who's ended up becoming a harper. Now, in this world, harpers are kind of like teachers, but they also do information and entertainment because they're the musicians. So it's a little bit strange and unusual for them to have this mute boy, but he is fitting him well. And he's kind of taken it on himself to go and spy on the Shunned, or at least a place where they think the Shunned have been thieving things. So the Shunned are these people who have been exiled because they did shitty things in the past, but it's now kind of becoming a problem because these people's children are being brought up in poverty and kind of being forced into a life of crime and just having a really awful time, really. So actually, a third of the way in, we have started to get the perspective of a girl who I think her name is Hella. Like, honestly, why would you have two main characters, one of them called Pelor and one called Hella? Like, it's confusing. But she doesn't really know who her parents were, and she's just fallen in with this group of orphans. And she's not shunned, but also most of the people around her, or most of the adults around her, are. And she has met up with Pelor a few times. It's kind of weird though, because he was trying to spy on this thievery at this mine that was going on. But actually then there was a whole side thing that he got involved with this camp of like watchwear owners. So watchwears are kind of like smaller dragons, kind of like guard dogs. And in some of the later books there has kind of been this theme of there being more going on with the watchwares than people have expected previously. So we kind of got a little bit more into that. But it all just seems to have been so that we would have a watchwear egg that maybe these thieves would want to steal as well. And I just feel like sometimes there's a lot going on in these books, but it none of it's properly fleshed out, and even the characters are really interesting, but they don't feel properly fleshed out to me either. You just kind of get told that this is the way they are. And like, I was invested in this Watchwear story when we got into it, and then it's over already, it seems, mostly. Anyway, the most important thing, what I realized when I was reading this, is there are some similarities between the way that the dragons in this world work and some of the things that are going on in the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. And I know Brandon Sanderson has cited Anne McCaffrey as an inspiration before, so that's really cool. I'm really interested. I feel like maybe in Skyward, Brandon Sanderson is thinking of the spaceships as the dragon equivalents, although there's the slugs, which maybe relate as well. But basically in Pern, the dragons are able to go between and like teleport from one place to another and take people with them as well. So if you've read Skyward, you'll know how that kind of interrelates. In the in-between world, they'll spend like a few seconds there longer, depending on how far they're traveling, and it's really cold in that time. And if you try to travel too far, you can end up getting lost or just getting too cold from having been in this in-between place for too long. And there was a part in the book where one of the dragons told this boy that he was really good at giving clear coordinates. And that's what made me think, oh, this is Skyward. Now, I do think the two series are completely different, really. It's really just that one element that's similar between the two. But it kind of blew my mind when I realized that. Anyway, I guess I better try and read at least a page of this before Jason comes around. My goals are so lofty.
Chasing one another, getting lost in another summer. Never wanted it to end. Now I'm losing all my friends. I'm reminded of the pain when I'm on the interstate, me and the moon, and we think of you.
Hello. So it's been a while since I updated this vlog. It's actually the next week now. But also, I only just finished Dragon's Fire, so we're gonna, I guess, wrap things up now, even though I've kind of moved on. But anyway, I finished off Dragon's Fire, and it was kind of what I expected. I'm always afraid I'm not gonna like these books, and often in the beginning I do struggle with them, just because of the writing style. But I also remember that a lot of these, by the time it gets to the end, I've really gotten invested in the story. But with this one, I feel like the story kept changing. We kept changing who the main character was. And even the main theme wasn't very clear. It's kind of about these shunned people and looking at how Pern's been dealing with like criminals by exiling them. But then now they've got all these generations of people who've been exiled or like raised by exiled people, and they've been raised in poverty. And how is that really going to work when this thread starts falling from the sky? And like, are they really saying these people are irredeemable? So that was interesting, but it was also kind of about these watchwares. So we've got the very last, potentially, watchware queen. So that drama's going on with the watchware eggs. And then as well, we've got these mines mining Firestone that's very dangerous. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on about Firestone as well. It just seemed a bit messy in that none of these storylines are necessarily bad, but I never felt like I really knew which story was the main story. And I never really knew who the main character was either. And also, there was a character who gave up having a dragon for this relationship that had no foundation and just kind of seemed like rubbish. So I guess the thing is, I really like the world building. I think Anne McCaffrey does write very realistic worlds, and a lot of the problems that are being dealt with are really interesting, and the way they're being dealt with are interesting. But just the construction doesn't fully support the story. So I guess out of the 3 struggle audiobooks that I read this week, we had... What did we read? What was the first one? Wow, it's been so long I've forgotten. Oh, Blood Rites. Was that just last week? So Blood Rites, not as bad as I thought. Ready Player 2, not as bad as I thought. Dragon's Fire. Probably about what I expected. Still, that's not too bad for 3 that I thought I would struggle with. I guess they weren't as bad as I feared they might be. The other thing I have been doing is continuing to read Child of Flame. I was hoping I could get halfway through this week, but I did not. And what's frustrating is I've actually decided to put this aside for the next week because it's the Aurelium Readathon. I'm going to focus on that instead. But I actually just read this section that I really loved and I was really interested in. So I am excited to get back into that. But also, because this is multi-POV, I don't even know when I'll get back to that character. But there's these people. I don't know if they're actually people. But there's these people that have these mechanical wings and they've basically abducted one of these groups that we're following. And so for the first time, we're really learning more about these people. And it seems like maybe there's more to them than you thought. And just, I guess there's kind of this tension between a couple of the characters that I'm really interested in. So I guess that means when I do pick this up again, at least I'll be excited to get back into it. It's definitely still taking me a while, but I know I'll get there eventually. I do like the story. It's just so long. Anyway, that was my week of struggling. Not so much of a struggle, but kind of a struggle because it ended up being more than a week. Oh, it was always going to be more than a week? I don't know. I'm struggling in general. But anyway, do let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about in this video because I would love to talk with you about them down in the comments. Especially, have you read any of those 3 audiobooks that I read? Because I'd like to know whether you struggled with them as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and I will see you next time.